Welcome back to part 2. In this one, we will talk about You Never Walk Alone. So if you didn't listen to part 1, we talked about all stuff that has been happening recently with the members, and then we did a chat about some of the original soundtracks that they've released. Now we're going to talk about the album that we spun in last time. I'm excited about talking about it because it has some really good songs on.
And it'll be the end of another era. School era, done. Wings era, done.
Exactly.
Any of the solo albums, still not done.
Yeah,
so we're going to be doing solos for a year.
We'll need to. We talked about
still not even done the first one yet.
No. So that would be an interesting time when we do that. Yeah, a second end of the era that we've done in a row, actually. Two ends of eras in a row. So You Never Walk Alone was the repackaged version of the Wings album. The repackaged version of Wings was released on February the 13th, 2017. It came with 3 brand new tracks and a longer version of what was previously Interlude Wings, but is now Outro Wings. So the Wings album, for those who remember, ended on Interlude Wings, obviously insinuating that there might be some sort of follow-up. According to the Big Hit blurb, You Never Walk Alone is an epilogue to close off the Wings era, and it offers a comforting message of hope and we can laugh if we're together to the youth of this generation.
Very sweet.
Yeah, and it sets out to complete the narratives of youth and growth that could not be contained within the Wings album, and adds a message of warm consolation and hope for the suffering youth of this generation. So the album won Album of the Year at the Hanteo and Sumpy Music Awards, as well as the Gaon Chart Awards for the first quarter of 2017. And it was listed on the Genius list of the 100 best albums of the 2010s.
Nice.
Yeah. It peaked at number 1 on South Korea's Gaon Chart and on the Billboard World Albums charts. But yeah, I didn't include any of the countries because there weren't separate numbers for this repackaged version. So yeah, do we have any thoughts about the album overall?
Yeah, I like it.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I remember it coming out. I ran upstairs at 3:00 and played it on my iPad and then cried.
Oh,
yeah.
We've always said that we were jealous of entering at Wings, right?
Yeah.
If we would have entered at Wings, this would have been our second comeback. Oh, to have a comeback.
It was my second comeback.
Oh,
jealous.
I like it as well. I think it's really elite in terms of the songs that I have on. They're all really good. But the title, Liverpool Football Club have a very famous song called You Will Never Walk Alone. So for a while, that was all I could hear when I heard the title. And
Jimin puts it on his hoodie.
Yeah.
And when he put it on his hoodie when I was baby army, I was like, what's that got to do with anything? Is Jimin a Liverpool fan?
Yeah, it's like a really big deal. I'm not a Liverpool fan myself, so I don't like the song that much, but I've been to Anfield, which is Liverpool's home ground, when they sing the song and they sort of all put their scarves up and they shout it at the top of their voice, and it's really powerful. And it has the same sort of sentiment of we should all band together and in difficult times. But yeah, it's just people get YNWA tattooed and stuff, Liverpool fans over here, so it's a little distracting when you know an abbreviation as something that's so symbolic of a group of people, and then all of a sudden it's something else.
I think it could have its own era. I like it as a concept, the You Never Walk Alone. I know it's got 4 extra songs.
Yeah.
I think it's a shame that it's at the end of Wings.
Well,
or a repackaged version, because I like this concept of you'll never be on your own, because it's almost microcosmos vibes, right? You've got us, we've got you, we're intertwined together. You'll never be alone because you found this thing. Maybe it doesn't have to be called You Never Walk Alone, because that is too close to the Liverpool bone for me as well.
Yeah.
But this sort of ARMY, BTS, togetherness message, I think, is a really powerful one that you don't get from the title of Wings.
I think it seems a bit random before you look into it, but I thought when I looked into the topics of You Never Walk Alone and sort of put them together with Wings, I thought it made a lot of sense, actually, for it to be sort of added on at the end, because I think Wings as an era is quite a dark one. It's all about recognizing the dark side and the dark side of fame and the dark side of their first meeting with evil and all that sort of stuff. There's a risk that Wings can be seen as quite pessimistic, whereas through the songs that they've added in You Never Walk Alone, they're trying to sort of put a positive spin on it and say, yes, everything has a dark side. Yes, there's ups and downs. Yes, there's a good realm and an evil realm. And sort of that's something that we have to live with as we mature and we venture into any world, really. But for them specifically, this world of like fame and success. But actually, if we can face that stuff together, then we will be able to and be stronger. So it makes sense as a sort of the solution to the problem that Wings tosses up in a way.
Yeah.
They hint on it in the outro Wings song, right? Of the like, oh, army have given us wings and now we're going to fly towards our future. But actually, how are we going to do that? Well, it's because we're going to face it together. Yeah.
That's fair. I still think you could stick in another 6 songs after Wings as the era and be the answer. I mean, there's more in that. And they explore that topic later, right? When you get to the microcosmoses.
When the album got announced as a repackaged, there were a lot of same feelings on Twitter, being like, why is there only like 2 extra songs really on it? A lot of people hated the fact that they'd waited and just got 2 extras like me.
Well, that's how we felt about Proof, right?
Yeah, I think
when
that's
you'd waited as a comeback and you're getting a concept that you've spent loads of time with that's repackaged. Whereas,
but that's the case whenever you repackage anything, right? Especially if you do it like they did with Proof, where they were like, come back. I'm actually, no, it's like, it's 3 new songs. But I don't know if that's how they did it this time. But you're going to get people annoyed about not having more songs, whatever you do. Like with Jimin's album, everyone's like, oh, is it only 6 songs? Why is J-Hope's album only 20 minutes long? Like, that's a little bit inevitable. But I thought there was like a poetic beauty to them having put these 2 together. And I'm not saying that they couldn't have made more songs about this. They could have done a whole 15-song album being like, this is light and dark, but this is actually when we're together. It could have been way more than 4 songs. But I think they make sense as something that can exist back to back or
symbiotic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there also wasn't much time because Wings came out in October and this came out in February. So
that's what I was going to say. And they were touring, right?
Yeah.
So this is a way to keep on the forefront, keep producing content.
Yeah. And also for the people that waited, like you waited like 4 months maybe and then got 3 new songs and then you waited like 3-4 more months and you got Love Yourself Her. So it's not like people have been sitting on Twitter being like, where's my fucking BTS album?
No, but if you've sold a comeback and it's not a comeback, you are pretty angry.
That's fair. Anyway, for those who haven't listened to Wings, we did 2 very thorough episodes on it. So please go back and listen to those if you haven't. But what I've written is the message of sort of everything has a dark side can seem both quite pessimistic and quite sort of that you could easily be weighed down by, of like, I can work as hard as I want, but actually the place of eternal joy and sort of heaven on earth doesn't exist.
No.
And therefore, that's sort of what I believe that the role of this repackaged extension of the Wings album is to provide a bit of an optimistic twist, like I said, on the message of Wings in terms of there's good and there's evil in the world. Nothing can exist one without the other. The evil and the dark sides are not insurmountable because you never walk alone and you can face it and persevere together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Strong message.
And I think all the songs sort of link up to this theme really of togetherness and also challenges, but like facing those challenges together. So the first song, Spring Day, you were going to do the lyrics of that one, Tash, weren't you?
Yep, so Spring Day is written by P-Dog, RM, Adora, Hitman Bang, Alyssa, Rupert, Peter, Ibsen, and Sugar, and produced by P-Dog.
No Hobie. Shocker.
I know.
Well, he's not even in the song, so...
No, I know.
He is.
He's not.
He's not.
He must have been very naughty that month. For him to be like, that's it.
RM even did the V-Live in his studio. I'm like, fuck Hobie. He's not getting a line on this song and I'm going to talk about for 20 minutes in his studio because it smells nicer.
Yeah, RM did his V-Live about this album from Hobie's studio because he said it smells nicer. And he was like, oh, he's got much less decor than I do. It's much nicer. But yeah,
I didn't even give him a line.
Tash just mentioned it. I didn't realize before you mentioned. But yeah, there is no official J-Hope line in the song. When they perform it, he sings the intro bit of RM's
the start of RM's verse.
And then he also does the slow bit at the end of the second chorus he does as well. So they've given him 2 bits in the performance, no bits in the actual song.
No bits in the actual song.
Yeah, which I feel like that's such a dumb oversight. Just give him that like outro. The outro of the second chorus would have been enough.
J-Hope would have sung vocals on it, right? That's what Aram said. Like normally all three of them record and P-Dog picks his favourite.
It's just an editing oversight, I think. But they should have just given him the outro of that second chorus. The vocal line don't get much more than that. So
when I watched all the reaction videos, everyone's like, oh my god, J-Hope's there, like when's he going to sing his part? Can't wait for his verse, like his rap's going to be so good. And then he didn't come up and they're like, what the actual fuck? But then a lot of videos, do you know where you remove the top vocal and then listen underneath, and apparently Hobie's like in it.
Maybe he does sing on that second chorus. I thought it was like JK and Jin or something. Maybe it's JK and Hobie.
Yeah, and the lyrics, they're down as V and Hobie.
But we're going to look past it because it's a great song.
So a lot of people link this music video and the song to the Sewol ferry disaster. They actually were asked about it, and Jin said that even though the song also has a link to that, it's more about longing and a look to the past and what's been lost in it.
The whole song and music video and the references, they're sort of about loss in general, but also there are things in the music video that we'll talk about that very much seem to at least be directly related to this incident.
What happened with the ferry was it was overloaded and then capsized. Only 172 passengers survived. A majority of them were high school students that were going from Incheon to Jeju on a school trip.
There were 476 passengers and 304 people died. 250 of those were the students from Danwon High School in Ansan.
After the sinking, a widespread social and political reaction occurred. People criticised the captain and most of the crew because out of the 172 people that survived, a large majority of them were actually like the crew members. And I think the captain, he actually survived and he told the children to stay inside and just not evacuate. It'll be fine, help will come. But he left. And, yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of controversy around the fact that they had asked people to stay in their seats rather than try and get out. And they thought that the reason that so many students died was because young people are more likely to follow orders. There were a lot around it that sort of made it worse. The Korea Coast Guard hadn't managed to save a lot of the victims, whereas the government and the media had reported that people were being rescued, adding to sort of the agony and the hope of the families, obviously. And then the friends of the passengers, that they were like, oh, no, it's fine, we're rescuing them. And then actually they're not doing a very good job rescuing. And also, they're not coming back.
Difficult.
Yeah. And there were speculations about illegal practices from the ferry company, and passengers, like Natasha said, were told to stay in their seats while the ship was going down. And most of the people that survived were the people that didn't stay in the seats, obviously. So
sad.
Mm-hmm.
The captain and 3 crew members were charged with murder, while the other 11 members were indicted of abandoning the ship as part of a government campaign to manage public sentiment over official response of the sinking. Arrest warrant was issued to the owner of the company that got it, I think, and he could not be found, and it was later revealed that he'd killed himself in this field.
Jeez.
If you do actually read like the Wikipedia page, it's a very sketchy story. Like it was like a commercial shipping boat from Japan, and then they made it so then it were like people could go in it. They added 2 extra decks, and that somehow in the law it got allowed that the limit was 200 tons. It were allowed up to like 1,000 and some tons, so which is like a huge difference, and probably the reason why it capsized.
So like poor safety as well, like repurposing a commercial vehicle for tourism, and then no wonder the company was charged.
Yeah, there were also a lot of criticism that Korea were denying like overseas help. Government got criticised for that.
Yeah.
That's like your facts and information about the ferry. But now I'll go on to like the mixture of envy and lyrics. So for the initial scene, V is seen expressing like a guilty expression. So when he goes onto the train track, he's probably thinking like, why did I survive? But then all my classmates and not.
Yeah, survivor's guilt.
I always wondered what that was about.
Yeah.
JK on the train is thinking about his friend that died. Jimin has gone back to the sea to reminisce about his friends. And RM is stood in a carriage with lots of belongings scattered around, which is representing what probably happened on boat, where people took the belongings and they were never brought back. So the first lyric is, I miss you. It's in stem form in Korean. This means that the statement is not intended for any specific person or listener. Instead, it's just a sudden declaration of grief and longing for a person or multiple people.
Yeah, I think it's obviously insinuates that the song is about sort of a general longing for a lost loved one or grief for sort of multiple people.
People thought it were meant to offer comfort to the nation, and I guess just in general, BTS wanting to bring comfort to people that have lost loved ones in any situation. The next lyric is, though I'm looking at your picture, I still miss you. Time is cruel. I hate us. Us who now find it difficult to see each other, even for once. It's all winter here. Even in August, winter comes. Yeah, I think he's using winter as sort of the symbol of the hard times that he's going through. Whereas, spring day insinuates that the time when things are going to get easier and brighter is sort of coming. So, yeah. And also, apparently, I read that the I miss you, even though I'm looking at your picture, the your he uses is plural.
It's multiple people in the photo. And the I hate us, right? Like a whole nation. You can read into that.
And times are cruel. Obviously, it's been a long time since it happened, but you still sort of have that. Just like, oh, I can't believe that. Think of someone who's died and the last time you saw them, you can't believe that it's been that long. So, yeah.
So the next lyric is, my mind leaps through time. Snowpiercer that is left alone, holding your hand. I go to the other side of the world. I wish to end this winter. How much longing must fall like snow before the spring day arrives? Friend. So the Snowpiercer is the guy that made Parasite.
Yeah, it was directed by Bong Joon-ho. He made the movie Snowpiercer in 2013. Do you want to tell the listeners what happens
in the film?
Yes. A film that symbolises human society, welfare government at the front of the train and lower class at the back of the train, and how the front treat the back of the train in such a inhumane way, which links to what Christine said, saying that younger people and ordinary citizens always just expect to follow the rules. So I'm just sitting there and just waiting, thinking, oh, I'm going to be rescued because someone more in charge is telling me that's right. Then it's kind of like they're being oppressed.
Yeah.
Well, and it's set in a dystopian future, right?
Yeah, so what happens is that they try and experiment with a way of sort of reversing global warming. They try and pump this stuff into the atmosphere to strengthen it, but then actually they end up triggering a new ice age, making it impossible for people on Earth to survive, except for these people who are aboard this constantly moving train.
The train's designed as a tourist destination thing. It's not designed for an apocalypse. It's this tourist thing that you can get on. Everyone scrambles to get on it. And depending on where you get on as well. So there's some people who are rich but get on at the end who then get forced into the lower classes. I think it's a really good social commentary movie on how ultimate power corrupts, as always. And there's a Netflix series on it as well, which is more exploratory of different models of surviving if that dystopian society, that dystopian reality became normal.
Yeah. So, like Natasha said, it's about the sort of upper class and the government are in the front cars, and they sort of want for basically nothing, live a very good life, whereas the poor clientele, or the scum, as they're dubbed in the movie, are cramped towards the back cars and living in squalid conditions with basically no resources. Do
they have to eat crickets in the movie?
Yeah, they do.
While the others have sushi and an aquarium.
Yeah, the upper class treat them horribly, which is a symbolic representation of human society. And the film is about when there's a riot from the back carts of the train, which comes up in the MV, which is led by the main protagonist called Curtis, and he seeks to control the train's engine, which is at the front. He eventually makes it to the front of the car and is seen alone there. So he's alone for the first time in 18 years on the Snowpiercer, which is what the lyrics say, alone on the Snowpiercer. But he cries when he gets there because he's sort of in the process of getting to the front, he's sort of lost everyone he loved. So he's alone on the Snowpiercer. And if you're alone on the Snowpiercer, because obviously the Snowpiercer have the last remaining people on Earth, then you're completely alone.
It's a massive sacrifice. They make massive sacrifices of people and human life, even though life is so precious.
Yeah, exactly.
To drive what? To drive social norm and social balance under one dictator's view.
And I think the line of being alone on the Snowpiercer is probably a commentary of sort of grief and depression and everything you can feel after a tragedy like this can be so isolating that you can feel as if you're alone on the Snowpiercer, as that's sort of the level of alone that you are. The reference to Snowpiercer has a lot of layers, I think, because as Natasha mentioned, obviously it alludes to the sort of normal people and children without natural authority and privilege are expected to follow orders and sort of listen to authorities, even if they're being oppressed. And it's sort of the image of the society that's sort of stuck within those norms. Like you can't sort of break out of that society.
And they've been trying to improve that, like as a band for a long time. They've been trying to push those boundaries, and they want to tell kids not to be study machines and speaking on behalf of a young generation to then see that actually nothing's changed.
It has the level of sort of the critique of an oppressive government, but it also has the level of like, I'm so isolated that I feel like I'm alone on the Snowpiercer. That's how tough this is for me. And also, I guess we should say in the movie, one of the characters sees a snowflake that comes through the window and sort of suspects as a result that actually it might be possible to live outside, because apparently snowflakes can only form when it's not very cold outside, because you need moisture in the air. That makes it a very suitable reference for spring days. I put in the movie, they suspect that the cold time is coming to an end and they want to break out from this authority that's keeping them within the train.
And there's signs that may be possible.
Yeah.
Back to you, Natasha, sorry.
During those lyrics that have been said, in the music video, RM leaves the train and goes to what looks like a shop called Melas.
It's a motel, I think. Melas,
which is a fictional town in a book called The Ones Who Walk Away from Melas. The synopsis is, the ones who walk away from Melas is the story of a utopian society whose survival and happiness depends on suffering of children.
You've told me about this.
It's just one child. Yeah. One child suffers for the happiness of the... We've talked about it already. We talked about it in BTS Club. The Ones Who Walk Away from Melas is about one child that suffers so that society can remain really prosperous and happy.
So then RM moves forward in the train like the movie Snowpiercer. He exits and the building that's in front says Melas, which is a fictional town in a book called The One Who Walked Away from Melas, which is a story of a utopian society whose survival and happiness depends on the suffering of a child. In short, it's about how someone's happiness and prosperity means someone else's suffering, and those ignore the suffering, stay happy. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. I think it's meant to represent, obviously, the sort of the single child that has to suffer for everyone else to be happy is the way that people sort of turn away from the weak and the sort of downtrodden, and the way that it links to the disasters, obviously, that the kids were the people that suffered because of what those in charge were telling them, because they were telling them stay in their seats.
Oh, that's fair.
And also it's a bit of a picture of grief as well, because the whole song is about dealing with your grief and not ignoring it, whereas the child who's alone and suffering in darkness is sort of symbolizing that grief.
It's a good reference.
Yeah, the book is by Ursula K. Le Guin, and it was published in the 70s. It's a short story, part of a collection of short stories.
So as he's walking through the carriage, it says, I wish to end this winter. And a lot of poets use this to describe death and like a circle of life scenario. I guess spring represents like new life. Even though they passed away, they're still moving on to like the memories from when they were alive, not just like draining on their dead part.
Yeah, and also I guess how long is it gonna weigh me down? I guess obviously if your child is dead, you're probably not gonna get over it, so to speak, but you need to sort of be able to hope that spring in the form of lighter times are going to come. Otherwise, what's the point? So yeah, it's a good metaphor.
When he walks through the carriage and then the scene where they're all like throwing stuff at him, it's like he's got to front of the train where he confronts injustice. In the film, they're like, you're not coming through, we're going to kill you all. So I guess that's what they're trying to represent in that scene, but it's very playful. That's probably my favourite scene of the music video.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? It looks like they're having fun, but I also heard the thing about how it's meant to represent getting attacked, and he's got a very strange sort of solemn facial expression as he's standing there when they're throwing the stuff at him, so it's a weird one.
And then it says, like a tiny dust wandering in the void, if I were a fluttering snowflake, I would be able to reach you a little faster. The flowers of snow fall, a little by little they drift apart. I miss you, which
is really lovely.
Yeah, it's just nice, I think. Well, he talked about in his V Live, he talked about how he was inspired by the leaves falling, because he said he went to a park and sort of watched leaves falling off a tree, and then he sort of came up with a melody watching the leaves falling, and then changed it to snowflakes because of the spring day, winter metaphor. So
the dust, it could be a death cremation metaphor, because then you become dust once you're dead, and then you're closer to the people that have already died. You believe in being reunited in heaven.
Yeah.
So the next part in the music video is Jin on the stairs, and Jin's supposed to represent the one that's passed away, and he's looking at the others that are like climbing and growing up, and he's like stuck, and it says, how much longer should I wait, and how many sleepless nights should I spend before I get to see you, before I get to meet you, past the edge of cold winter, until the spring day comes again, until flowers bloom, please stay there a while longer. Which is really sad. It's so sad. It's such a strange thing that every spring it gets to number one again, and it's about people dying. But
it's about people remembering.
Yeah,
as well.
it's about remembering the dead. Yeah, it's a message of comfort, isn't it? So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the next few scenes of the music video is everyone just like going about their lives, and I guess when someone in your family does pass away, it's hard to think like I'm still carrying on with my life, but then yeah, that person will never get to experience it. Like a thing that I used to always think about with Nan, we're like, she's never going to see this episode of Coronation Street, and I bet she would have loved it. Like, it's such a strange feeling that they should be experiencing it, not just me.
Oh, that's really beautiful. I think that's why people have like photos of family at weddings and christenings and that sort of stuff, because they're always remembered.
The next lyrics say, would it be that you've changed or I've changed? I hate even the time that is passing right now. I guess it's us that have changed. I guess everyone has changed. Yeah, I hate you. Though you left, even for a day, I haven't forgot you. Oh, it's so emotional.
Yeah.
You got some anger there as well, right? You got all the stages of grief, the sort of, what is it? Like sadness, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance.
That section is really nice. There is an understanding of this song as well that's about mental issues and suicide and stuff like that. So I think that lyric of I hate you, you left me makes maybe more sense in that context, because there's a few other sort of symbols in the music video that you can interpret in both ways, but you can be angry at the fact that someone stayed in their seat as well, like even though they were just listening to the people that had told them to. So I guess it seems a bit irrational, but like you said, it's a stage of grief. So, but it's a really beautiful section. I love the bit where Jimin and Suga sort of harmonize. Like it's like a call and response section where Jimin like repeats what he says. So yeah, it's nice.
When they sit back to back, right, in the performance.
Yeah.
So the next bit is, though you left, even for a day, I haven't forgotten you. To be honest, I miss you. I'll erase you now, because doing so hurts me less than resenting you. I try blowing out you who aches my heart like white smoke. Though I say that I'll erase you, I can't actually let you go yet.
Yeah. It's nice. It's a good verse from Yoongi, obviously. But then, yeah, and it's really sad.
Yeah, I guess that's what like people that have like experienced a family or friend passing away, there's loads of things that people say to you like, it gets better with time and stuff like that. But then you're like, what you're really telling me is that like you'll think less and less of them. It's not really the nicest thing to hear.
Yeah, but I think the song is trying to convince you that if you come together in grief and if you recognize grief and if you believe that you'll have better times again or brighter times again, even if, you know, it won't be the same. I think that's the message that the song's trying to give you, but obviously it is a very hard thing to do.
I think it depends on where you're at in your grief, right? As to whether the comfort works. I think lots of people try and say stuff that doesn't necessarily work or resonate, but obviously this song has for that tragedy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the song is trying to replicate the sort of platitudes of like, oh, it'll be okay, like, buck up type thing. It's trying to say, like, if you've had a loved one pass away, then you should share in that pain with your fellow loved ones who would also be experiencing the same pain, and sort of you can relate to it together and work through it together, and that way it'll be easier.
The next part is the flowers of snow fall. A little by little they drift apart. I miss you, I miss you. How much longer should I wait? How many sleepless nights should I spend before I see you, before I get to meet you? And then it says, you know it all, you're my best friend. The morning will come again, because no season can last forever. It seems like the cherry blossoms are blooming. This winter is also coming to its end. I miss you, I miss you. It's very, very poetic from everyone who wrote it. Yeah. And then I think it goes on to next same chorus again, sleepless nights bit. And it says, I'll come to meet you, I'll come pick you up. Past the edges of the cold water until spring day comes again, until flowers bloom. Please stay there a while longer, please stay. In the music video, Jimin picks up the shoes, which is kind of like he's picking up the washed stuff that's come up from the survivors. And then the line, I'll come to pick you up, is representing that he's got to change her attitude. He was hopelessly waiting for you, and now it's a bit of acceptance and being like, this person's never going to come back, but I can fight for him and say, like, justice needs to be made. So then that person will kind of live on, and that it'll never, something like this is never going to happen to other children.
Lovely.
That's it.
Yeah. It's the whole song.
Sadder than I expected.
Yeah, it's very sad. And it's really beautiful, obviously. I think I wrote whether you think it's about the ferry disaster or about suicide rates or about depression or about missing someone you haven't seen in a while or all of the above, which I think is probably most likely. It's meant to sort of be applicable in all the situations. It is a good sort of beacon of hope where grief and hard times are involved, or where you sort of need to feel more hopeful or less alone. That's sort of all I wrote, except that I also wrote a lot about how beautiful the vocals are. Jimin's sort of soulful delivery is really good. I think JK's harmonizing is great. And obviously also V's vocals on the bridge, I think, are gorgeous. When Jungkook sort of takes over and then into that big, loud vocal from Jimin was a different sort of style than he normally sings, where he sort of belts out that last chorus, which is really nice.
And a lot of the rap, soft rap, right?
Yeah.
Gentle vocal rap, which we always like. We've got time for a soft, gentle rap.
It's obviously a bit of another vocal from RM.
Yeah, it sets the tone, doesn't it? It sets that. This is not an angry rap. This is a solemn song.
Yeah.
Did you know the lyrics were this deep?
Kinda, but I'd never experienced grief. So reading it again, you're obviously like, oh shit, and that bit, and that bit. So it's different.
Yeah.
All I will say though is that I did cry a lot of this song when it was released, and then obviously you do your initial watch, you go back and read captions, and then you do about 4 more watches just to like see if you've catched out. And like, even though not really understanding, I probably cried more then. I couldn't listen to it for like weeks and weeks. But nah, I love it.
Oh, you cry in it a lot. I don't think I cried at Spring Day. I didn't really know much about it other than it's, it's one of the 3. It's Magic Shock, Microcosmos, Spring Day.
Yeah.
End of the night songs.
Yeah, I think I cried.
So I knew it was important, but I don't think I've ever cried at it.
I think I cried in Busan when they played it.
I cried the whole of Busan though, so that doesn't count. I cried from 0 o'clock onwards until we came home.
I can't remember if I cried reading the lyrics. I think maybe I cried more about the music video, because when I sort of was researching that and putting everything together and sort of watched the same scene over and over and over again to try and make sense of it, there's one reference in it, which I'll talk about in a minute, but I cried a lot at that, I remember.
I've just seen in my thoughts of it that I've got cried watching it. When I was watching it, it felt like BTS had gone forever. For some reason, it was like I think the Spring Day comeback was our there, like, you know, at 3 o'clock, just like refresh. That were like my, oh my god, BTS is sad, they're going, no, where they're going, why is it so sad? I guess this one my like, no, don't go, even though the defo won't.
Aww.
Yeah, they weren't gone then.
Oh, you thought in 2017 they were going to go?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, they almost broke up in 2018, so
yeah.
It's not that far off.
Thankfully they didn't.
No.
I mean, that's fair, actually. I think it's nice. That's probably why they included it in Busan, right? As the track.
But also a sense of...
I miss you track for military.
Yeah, exactly. A sense of positive message of like...
Grieve together, army!
Yeah, but also like there will be a spring day in 2025 when we will meet each other again.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we can go through the motions together.
I think I remember their first COVID concert in Korea. The banner had been the lyrics from Spring Day, the winter's over and spring's here.
Yeah.
And it was really representative of that period of struggle over COVID and then them coming back. So maybe it'll be the banner in 2025/2026/ever, thanks to stupid Bang PD and his latest.
It's not never. It's maybe it's
like
just,
maybe.
But the original statement said around 2025, so he is in accordance with his own words. But yeah, it's definitely true about COVID. I've included some of maybe just one, but there were a lot of performances of it in COVID because obviously it's they're sort of waiting for the winter and for Spring Day to come when we can all be together and then sort of how long do I have to wait? Oh, and I miss you. It's very apt for that time. So we'll talk a bit more about that when we get to that performance. But yeah, is there anything else that RM said in his V Live you want to mention?
Yeah, so RM in his V Live said that the day that he was sort of inspired to write Spring Day, and because he was sort of having a strange day, he didn't go to his normal parks, he didn't go to Han River and do all his writing where he wrote reflections. He went to a new park, Say It Gang.
Yeah, SS Gang, I think it was.
Yeah. Which is like a hidden attraction that he'd recommended if you were over there.
Yeah.
And he saw the leaves falling and he felt strange looking at them, so he picked one up. Oh, and then he mentioned that the leaves looked like the anime's umbrellas, the Totoro's umbrella.
Yeah.
And then he said it was windy and the leaf blew away, and in that moment he just thought of the melody.
Yeah. He said he'd received the track and he was walking around listening to the track, and apparently I think he said that the track already had the like I miss you section in it, or like it came with those words. I wasn't really sure what he said, but he said that he was like listening to the track. And
then he sent it back to Bang PD with really poor singing. Yeah. And Bang PD said it was great, but it'd be probably better if the vocal line sung it.
Yeah. You couldn't tell because Aaron was singing.
Singing so poorly.
He was like, it's good, but I'm not sure.
He said it was the first time he'd written a chorus for a title track. And he said it was about friends asking how he was, and it reminded him of how he'd not spoken to a lot of them in a while.
Yeah.
And that actually the realization was because he's now famous, they won't reach out to him. It's his responsibility to reach out to them. So if you're thinking about it and you're missing someone, just do it. Just reach out to your friends, end the winter, and bring about the spring day and those friendships. He also said he caught a dragonite.
Yeah.
Very chaotic V Live.
He was definitely trying
one of the worst one I've seen.
He was trying to be engaging but also quick, I think. It was just a lot. But I'd heard before that he'd said that it was about school friends that he hadn't seen in a while. And I was like, oh my God, he must be speaking in code about like school friends you've not seen in a while because they've passed away. Yeah, exactly. I thought it was like I'm not allowed to tell you it's about the Seoul ferry disaster, so I'm just going to say it's about school friends I've not seen. But when I watched the V Live, I was like, no, he's just rambling. So
chatting random shit.
That's not what it is.
He gave a really good explainer of it at the top, then mentioned Hobie and Wings, then did the supplementary story, and then he was like, back to Spring Day, I'm always missing my friends.
Yeah. Yeah, he said it was about his like 5 closest friends from like middle school and high school that he'd sort of noticed a distance between himself and them since he'd sort of started on his idol journey, and which I guess is natural.
We also know that there was 2 tracks put forward for Spring Day.
Yeah.
One by our, yet to be MVP V.
Oh. Which actually is really nice. It's on Proof CD3, guys. Go find it. It's also on SoundCloud if you don't have the CD player. I was going to say if you don't have the album, but I'm guessing all of our listeners have the album. Yeah. If you don't, then you should take a look at yourself now.
Get off the podcast and go and buy Proof.
Yeah.
And then listen to the Proof episode where we all cry.
Yeah.
Great.
No, don't do that.
Yeah, so there's that really nice version from V, which we liked when we listened to it, but it's not RM's Spring Day, is it?
No.
I think V just got unlucky. If it was a different song at a different time, it could have been. But he was submitted, V.
Yeah, I remember he said he sort of submitted it, and Peter had been like, yeah, this is really good. Like, I think we're going to go with this. And then a few days later, they'd met up, and he'd been like, yeah, so, like, what did you go with? And they were like, no, Arms.
I think RM submitted his late as well. Like, yeah, he had done his, and, like, it was all ready to go, and he was super excited. And then it was like, well, RM went for a walk to the park, and caught a dragon eye, and we're going with his, because he's a genius.
I think melodically it's equally nice. I don't know what lyrics V had contributed, so maybe it was just that the lyrics that RM had written fit the melody. But yeah, I also remember he said that he wrote half the lyrics for the song, including his verse and the chorus. So he's contributed a lot of the lyrics to this song, I guess, maybe just apart from the bridge and Sugar's verse.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, good job.
Good job, Junie.
Yep.
Onto the MV,
yeah. So obviously Natasha's covered off some points of the MV already, but true to myself, I did a real thorough deep dive in this. I'll go over what I have, and then we can see if it sort of aligns, because I think I watched a few explainers and looked at notes online, and they don't all agree on what this is about.
Oh.
So it opens on Tay at the train station. It's obviously snow-covered train tracks. He walks over and he puts his cheek down on the track. So that's, as Natasha mentioned, is potentially an image of survivor's guilt, meaning that he might be sort of meant to portray a survivor of the accident. We see images of Jungkook staring sort of wistfully out the train window, and I've just called him Bubblegum Jimin, on the beach staring out the waves and then back at us. So they all look like they could be sort of mourning their friends. And I wrote, is it meaningful that it's McNay Lion, as in the kids of the band? But I'm not sure.
Maybe.
And then we have RM standing in the middle of the train carriage alone, but behind him we see loads of the abandoned suitcases. And Natasha mentioned that as well, reminding us of the students that took their belongings on the trip to Jeju and never brought them back. So there's a scene with RM moving forward in the train, sort of that links to the sort of main character of Snowpiercer, who goes to confront the government. And the Snowpiercer reference, we sort of alluded to this already, but I think it's there to sort of, because of the criticism against the government, that in the movie sort of mimic the criticism towards the government after the ferry disaster. And then the train has also been seen by some as representing the sort of seemingly endless cycle of pain and grief, because obviously it had to keep going and keep moving, and you had to stay on the train to stay alive. So there was no way out of that train cycle. So RM moves out of the train towards what looks like a motel called Amelas. Amelas refers to Ursula K. Le Guin's short story, The Ones Who Walk Away from Amelas. It's a story about a utopian society where, in order for everyone else to be happy, one child must perpetually suffer in darkness. And the citizens are told about the child once they're old enough, but despite most of their initial disgust, most of them choose to live on in the unbelievable happiness, believing that it's sort of worth it for the greater good. There are some who choose to walk away. They go alone, and it isn't known where they go, but they never come back, is the end of the story. So the reference to Amelas is there to point out that when there are injustices in society, or when authorities make immoral decisions, it's often the weakest and those with the smallest voices and the least agency and resources who suffer and who are silenced and overlooked. And that's symbolized by the child. And then I wrote that the child could also be representing the truths that we cannot face, like grief we try to ignore rather than acknowledge. All the scenes, I think, where you see them on the train or in the Amelas motel is meant to sort of represent the grief and the oppression that you can't get away from. RM walks past Yoongi and Holby through a door and then is back on the train. He walks past Jungkook, who is sitting alone, and sort of ignores him, and that's why people think that he is meant to represent the child from the Amela story. He, as an RM, walks through another door, and there is seemingly a party scene where Jimin throws the cake towards RM's face. You can see in the behind the scenes that he's meant to throw it at his face, I think, and then he misses.
Doesn't have a mean bun in his body, just
no. No, you can't throw a cake at anyone. And the others throw like crisps and confetti and stuff in his direction. And I think some people say it's representing them being happy in Amelas and being like, oh yeah, these are the times when everything's fine and we don't know anything about suffering. But like Natasha alluded to, RM's got this sort of quite sad and confused expression as it's happening. So I saw as well one interpretation saying that it's sort of meant to link to how the main character was attacked as he walked through the train in Snowpiercer. And I guess maybe it's a comment on that you can't just ignore the pain that you're feeling after a loss and pretend to be happy. I guess it's a throwback to the sort of overall theme of Wings, of the sort of, we can't expect to always walk on flower paths, and it will always be there, essentially, especially if you've suffered a loss like this. And then there's a scene on the staircase where Jin is left alone at the bottom, and he makes those little like camera hands. So Natasha said that Jin's meant to represent a victim that doesn't sort of get to move on with the others, which I think makes sense. But there's also some people that think he's meant to represent a survivor. And then his friends are sort of moving up the stairs towards heaven. So
makes sense.
Yeah, and there's a bit in the video where he definitely looks like he's a survivor, but I don't know if it's sort of, if the scenes are interlinked. It doesn't really seem like they are all the time. Then we see Jungkook stood in front of a now very famous, the rusty You Never Walk Alone carousel. So carousels are obviously an attraction for children, but the rust suggests it's no longer in use. So it's sort of mainly representing the children who are no longer there.
Well, yeah, and isn't Hobie abandoned by a carousel?
Yeah, that's true, actually. It's a nod to the universe story. So we see Rapline then stood in front of the massive Omela sign. And there are loads of scenes of them together, sort of in the motel, where they're sort of drawing on each other and they're piercing Jimin's ear at one point. And then some of them, they look like they're having a lot of fun, but some of them look really like beat down and tired and solemn. It's a bit of a weird section. They're all sat on this one big chair and watching a candle and a birthday cake, and they all look really forlorn, as if they're sort of trying to move on with their life. But it's difficult because they can't deny that this sort of tragedy has happened, because it's interspersed with scenes of the Maknae line alone again. So you have Tae on the train tracks, Jungkook on the train, and Jimin picking up the shoes from the beach as if they've washed up there. And apparently I also found out that abandoned shoes can be a symbol of suicide in Eastern pop culture. It's thought to be because of the custom to remove shoes when entering a home. Because just like you wouldn't want to drag dirt into the home, you wouldn't want to drag it into the afterlife. So it's customary to remove the shoes of someone before they pass away.
Take them off before you jump off the bridge, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that you leave
the shoes left on the bridge.
You leave them behind.
Yeah.
So that is another way of sort of interpreting the shoes, but I guess it's pretty telling that they're on the beach. So there are scenes of them together outside and inside the laundromat. The laundromat has this sort of mountain decor on the walls. And we see Jin turning his head back, looking through the circular washing machine window where the clothes are tumbling around in the water, which is about to be quite important because the next thing we then see is Jin from the inside of the washing machine. And you see him sort of through the circular window with the mountains behind him. So it looks like he's sort of standing outside and we're in the water. And that's why people think that he's a survivor, because
we can see him while we're drowning.
We see him as outside while we're drowning. Yeah, exactly. And there's an understanding that when someone turns their head back, it's because they're dwelling on the past. And there was also, it's a circular window, which I guess you could think of as like a ship window.
Ship, yeah. Like on Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
Other ships are available.
Yeah.
No, there's the scene on Titanic where it's just to smash through the circular window and then like get out of the hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, other ships also have circular windows.
Yeah.
At least I didn't say like on below deck.
No.
Like on below deck.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a valid reference, right? Because it's just thinking ship. So then the washing machines, when they zoom in on the washing machines, they also have a sticker with a checklist saying don't forget. And there were sentiments from those in charge and from like adults at the time that encouraged, there were some surviving students, obviously, they were encouraging these students to sort of forget about it and sort of move on with their lives. And naturally, that was met with resistance from the students, saying that they didn't want to forget about their friends or sort of what had happened, and they wanted to honor their memories.
Oh.
And then this is where the metaphor becomes very impressive, because it cuts straight from us inside the washing machine with the tumbling clothes to this big mountain of clothes that Sugar's sitting on.
Ah, yeah. I always wondered about the mountain. It's good graphically.
Yeah, it's not CGI. You can see it in the
I've seen that before.
in the making of. They've made a big tower of clothes, and he's wearing this beautiful
pink
jumper, and he looks all luminous when he sits on it.
He's got blonde hair.
No, he's got black hair, but his skin looks like, oh my gosh,
flawless.
Drop your skin routine when you I've been saying that.
Is that
for
all
years.
the washed up clothes?
No,
tell us.
The mountain is a reference to a 2010 art installation by a French artist called Christian Boltanski, and it was a 40-foot tall mountain of clothing flanked by an industrial crane. And about the piece, he said that clothes are simply placeholders for real people who have lived real lives. And for him, the clothing represented people. And there were about 6,000 articles of clothing, each representing one person. And he said the magnitude of the pile represent the heaviness of the people who we have now lost. Oh. And the crane represented the hand of God, adding the clothes to the top of the pile, representing the souls being lifted to a higher place.
Wow. That is a very cool reference.
Yeah.
I've seen an art installation with shoes in a line representing, I think it was a disaster.
Yeah. When you sort of put that in context of seeing the clothes swirling around in the water, then from in the water and then just onto the mountain, it's really quite clear. Yeah. Yeah. There's a scene with Hobie sat on top of the train with the paper plane. So the paper plane could symbolize childhood, like the carousel. But also I read that in Eastern culture, it can be a symbol of starting over and throwing yourself into the future, which I think is probably what he's trying to do here, because he's sort of taking deep breaths and spreading his arms like wings. He looks like he's trying to sort of let it go and come to terms with something.
Notes, and then it's done. Nice.
Maybe it's sort of more peaceful than burning. But different song. So then Jungkook is standing in front of the carousel, which lights up, and we see the sort of sped up versions of the members walking around him whilst he stood there silently, and they're not noticing him, as if he's the child from Omelas, or as if he feels isolated by his grief. And he's wearing the same jumper in that scene as he wears on the train.
So everyone else has moved on.
Yeah, I think that's what it's meant to signify. And he looks very lonely. And in the carousel scene, there are these yellow ribbons that are hanging all over the carousel. They link to this Seoul Ferry yellow ribbon campaign. So yellow ribbons apparently have been used to signify like loads of stuff. And the yellow ribbons were quickly adopted after the disaster as a symbol of the hope for the safe return of passengers. But when it then became clear that the victims wouldn't be returning, the symbol sort of evolved first into one of mourning. And then when it was eventually reported that a lot of the deaths could have been prevented if the government and the ferry staff had reacted differently, the symbol then turned into one of defiance against the government's incompetence and corruption.
Protest symbol.
Yeah, exactly. And then yellow ribbons were spread both physically and virtually all over South Korea. So the victims' families adopted the yellow ribbon as a main symbol of their protest against the government. And they remained present in demonstrations and calls for the president to be impeached until he finally was in 2017.
Yeah, then it's 100% about there's very clear references to the disaster.
There was one interpretation from one girl who thought it was just about suicide and mental health, and she said that yellow ribbons were also used as a symbol for suicide awareness. So it could still be both. But I read that in 2016 they raised a 30-foot tall art installation called Hui Mang Chopul, the Candle of Hope, in the Gwanghwamun Square in Seoul, where we were. And this statue served as a symbol of both the Seoul protest and the impeachment efforts, and was covered in yellow ribbons. So even though it had been 2 years since the disaster, it was sort of very much still in the culture. And so by the time the song came out, I feel like the yellow ribbons would have been very recognizable to Koreans at the time as a reference to this. And then we see scenes of Jungkook distressed running through the train. And he's wearing a different outfit this time. He keeps turning when he's running, which signifies dwelling on the past. It's as if he's trying to get back to the happy times of Omelas before they recognize the truth of the child. The other members join him, and he walks sort of confidently away from Omelas, and he looks sort of relieved and determined. And then they all run through this hallway towards the train that races past. And Jungkook sees himself through the window. And it's strange because both versions of him look just very puzzled as he sort of sees the train pass by. I was trying to figure it out for ages. I think maybe the version of him that's running up to the train, he might have been confused that he was just on the train and then running up to the train and then seeing himself on the train. So I'd wonder if that's like an allusion to the fact that you sort of never really escape the grief, I guess.
Could it be connected to a malice? The realization that he's the child sacrifice that has to be sad, and
yeah, but then it's weird that there's two versions of him.
There's two versions of him.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Yeah.
Then the train Jungkook also looks really surprised at seeing the members outside.
Oh.
I think he's puzzled by them all being together because up till now we've only seen that train Jungkook by himself. It's as if he sort of realizes something which comes up later. So the scene where they're sat together looking at the cake is replaced with just Jungkook lighting a match. In the next scene, the members are around him. And that apparently is a reference to the story of the Little Match Girl, which was published in 1845 by Danish author Hans Christian Andersen. It's the saddest story I've ever heard in my entire life. I have this very vivid memory of being told it in kindergarten and not being able to stop crying. But yeah, so it's about a little girl. She is barefoot out in the winter cold on New Year's Eve, trying to sell her matches on the street, and she can't go home because her father would beat her if she hadn't sold any matches. So she huddles between two buildings, and then she lights one match to keep herself warm. And then in the light from the match, first she sees a warm iron stove, and then she lights another, and she sees this magnificent feast of food. And then with her next match that she lights, she sees her grandmother, and then she constantly keeps like telling herself, oh, I'll just light one more match and one more match, but then she ends up burning them all. And then with the last matches, she sees the image of her grandmother carrying her to heaven as she's freezing to death. And then the next morning, they find her body with a smile on her face.
Because she should have sold the matches to not stay out in the cold, but she was so consumed by the grief that she wanted to continue to spend time looking at that, and within that fixation, didn't realise the impacts on her, and therefore she died.
Yeah.
But she died happy.
Yeah, it's meant to sort of stress the irony of her burning that which could keep her alive. And it's an allegory of not clinging to the past to the detriment of the future. But you can still remember those you loved without it being harmful, which is essentially the message of the song. And then from the fire of Jungkook's match, it cuts to the mountain of clothes again. But now it's in this big landscape full of sort of snowy mountains, and all the members sit on it. So they're remembering those they lost together instead of one by this stage. Yeah.
And they're not dead?
No, they're not dead, no. They're just
checking.
Remembering.
She said everyone on the mountain.
Yeah, I think so, at least. I think they're sort of trying to
grieve together,
yeah. And then it cuts to Jungkook on the train again, but this time it sort of pans out so that we can see all the other members sat in the same train carriage as him.
Is that the one where they're all sat in the position that they're then sat on later?
Yes, yeah. I'd not noticed this before when I'd watched it, but actually like all the images that you see of Jungkook on the train are close-ups, and then that very last scene they sort of start on him and then they widen the camera angles so that you see the whole cart. And I think the idea is that the members have been there the whole time, but he didn't know to lean on them because grief is so isolating.
You're so consumed, right? And then maybe they're all having their own stories.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But we're just following Jungkook through. So it links to the Alone on the Snowpiercer lyric I've written, which is probably why he looked so surprised when he saw the members out the window, because he saw them and they're all together. And then he was like, oh, wait.
They're outside, they're over their grief.
Yeah.
They're here, they're together. If I lean on them, it'll be easier for me.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes. Jimin leaves the train and sort of motions for the camera to follow. The members walk together away from the dystopian world represented by the train, because just like in Snowpiercer, they've discovered that life is possible outside the train. It's possible to move on. And then they walk over a snow-covered landscape where you can see the field underneath poking through as if it's spring. And Jimin leads them towards the single tree. And then the last thing we see is the shoes that Jimin found hanging in the tree. So in some cultures, shoes are hung in trees to commemorate the dead. It's thought that the shoes should be easy to find if their spirit returns, and then they'll be able to walk closer to heaven. So yeah. And then I've written, take time to fawn over visuals. The sepia tones, the hair, and the outfits.
Great Mon.
Great Mon. That was my first point.
Pink Jimin.
Bubblegum Jimin. And Fluffy JK. And then all of them in the fussy knitwear. I guess it sort of suits the vibe of the song. It's meant to be like comforting, isn't it? And some of their outfits are quite like childlike with the hats that they wear and the suspenders and like Juni's crown that he wears. Tae's hat with the flaps. Do you have any favorite looks from the movie?
I do like Jimin's one where he's near the sea, where he's like partial bit of leg.
Yeah.
All I remember about the spring day outfits is always being confused by JK and Jin wearing similar jumpers.
Oh, yeah.
They're wearing white jumpers with black stripes when I was trying to distinguish them from each other. And they are now clearly two very different people.
Yeah.
Wearing not even that similar outfits.
No. Yeah. No, my favorite is definitely Yoongi in the hot pink sweater.
Yeah, he looks great there.
Yeah, he does. I also heard that traditionally the song has tended to chart alongside new releases whenever BTS makes a comeback, because to ARMY, comeback means that spring day has come.
Oh.
So, yeah. Are we happy with the MV?
Happy.
Do you feel differently about it?
Now that I know all the references. Yeah, I liked the bit about the laundry and the mountain.
Yeah, I think that bit's very good.
It fits, right?
Yeah, it is very fitting. I think it's really clever how they're able to reference all these things that are quite separate.
Just like skipping through, I've realised that there's a lot of striped outfits, and apparently it says stripes are one of the most ancient patterns imagined by humans to distinguish individuals excluded from society.
Yeah, like stripy prison suits.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense, though, because if you want to see it, it's like feeling ostracized by your grief.
Even the stylists are working.
Yep.
Is it better than Blood, Sweat and Tears?
Oh, I don't know. It's so different.
Think about it. Oh, well, yeah, but is it better?
I don't know.
This is on the back of a weekend where our new housemate asked drunken Christine to tell her a bit more about BTS, and she spent at least an hour explaining Blood, Sweat and Tears, which is a 5-minute music video,
6 minutes
by
actually.
scene.
6 minutes.
I was like, Sophia, why have you opened this box?
See, I like all the like art references in Blood, Sweat and Tears because I studied art history and all the sort of grandeur of that. But then I think Spring Day is very moving. It sort of serves a completely different purpose.
If you could only have one?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. You just don't want to say it.
I don't know. No.
You'd keep Spring Day. You'd take Blood, Sweat and Tears. I'd take Blood, Sweat and Tears.
Maybe.
You as in Natasha. I'd keep Spring Day. Just pointed at her. It's an audio. You'd keep Blood, Sweat and Tears.
But I really don't want to have to get rid of any. So, yeah.
Well, thankfully we live in a world where you don't.
No.
It's okay to say your rankings, even though I know you hate to do it.
But also it's okay to say I think they're equally good.
Do you think they're equally good?
Yeah.
And you won't have to do it, because when we do the end of year ranking,
yeah,
you'd have to pick what's 1, what's 2.
Oh yeah,
but you don't.
But I don't, because they're in separate years. Maybe we'll do it once we finish all the albums. Yeah.
2027. Yeah. Come back to find out if Christine's made up her mind.
Right. Shall we move on to performances? So the first one I linked was the dance practice, and I put, what do we think about the dance?
Doesn't need it.
No.
I think the problem is I've seen a lot of the performances without the dance, and I've seen them not do any dancers. Whereas I guess back then in 2017, it'd be very rare for them to do a comeback, go into a music show and not have any choreo for the second
lead
song.
Track.
Yeah, especially the lead track. So
yeah.
I can see why it's there,
yeah,
but it just feels like it's a very sentimental song, and when they just sing it. So I just think it just means so much more
without the dance.
Without it.
I completely agree.
The dancing's fine. I just think it really detracts from.
Yeah.
And they were doing it for, I Need You and Run and.
Yeah, and every song
softer
they did
ones.
after.
Yeah. So I get it.
Yeah, same.
Don't love it.
Yeah.
What about you?
I couldn't say that I particularly love it, and it's like, oh yeah, as soon as it comes on in club, I'm like moving my arms about. But also that's how I know it.
Oh yeah, because you would have seen it straight off.
Yeah.
I think the dance is also a bit juvenile. Like if you compare it to a Black Swan, which is emotive and lyrical, this lacks
it does.
that lyricism. It's all a bit too
I think it's too
stucco.
fast.
It's too fast.
Yeah.
There's cutting and chopping between. I just don't like it.
The bigger, quicker movements in the chorus are just jarring because I just keep thinking, the song doesn't need it. I think the verse choreo is a little bit different. I think when they're like do those like fluid movements and like Jimin gets to do his more lyrical dancing, show that skill off. So that's nice.
Only Jimin does a good job.
Yeah, exactly. It's just I don't need the big jumps and the arm like waving in the chorus. Like,
and the transitions.
Let the song shine.
Pass each other.
I do like the bit where Yoongi and Jimin sit on the floor. I understand the bits where there's often like one person that walks off and then the group or the others bring them back to the group, like in the bridge where Tae does the you know it all, you're my best friend, and then I think it's Jin that comes and sort of gets him and like that. I think that section's choreographed well. But I think in the chorus when they're talking about the snowflakes falling, there's like one bit where they clearly are meant to like mimic the snowflakes falling, and I'm
they
like,
do the big hands.
the big hands, like no. Anyway, Jimin, great job.
Jimin, great job.
Yeah. Okay, Countdown. What did you think of this one?
I told you about this one. I was sad because you'd labelled it loose shirts and chokers. And then I was like, Junie in a choker. He was not.
Oh, yeah.
Hobie is.
Tae wears a really long one that looks a bit like a leash, was what I've seen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the dog leash one.
Yeah.
Junie looks near horrendous with the beret and the big collar and the
I thought he looked nice.
big jumper.
They wear flowy shirts for a lot of these performances, but they lend themselves to the choreo, I think, because there's a lot of like throwing your arms out and like moving and whatever, and the shirts sort of emphasize that movement. And you can see Hobie's got parts now. I think that was nice.
Yeah.
It incorporated some of the scenery and
it's better than some of the others of the time. There's one where they're all, I think that's the next one, right, where they're literally all wearing the same shirt.
Yeah. I included that one because I like the shirts.
Yeah, but it's all the same shirt.
Yeah.
We have our own clothes.
Tae's shirt has a lovely bow with pajama top trimmings. And Jin and Jimin's got little bow ties on their sleeves, which I really liked. And there are more chokers. JK has one. Jimin and Sugar have short ones.
The long one. JK's in the leash.
Yeah. And then I don't like Hobie's one because it's like has this weird inbuilt vest thing, and it says "I am red with love" on the back, which is something. Arm has a roll neck underneath.
Don't like it.
I thought it was alright.
I think from the distance it makes Arm look a bit like a priest.
Okay. I thought the set was nice though, with the lights, and they have these like reflective gold string things hanging from the ceiling.
It looks like a birthday party.
Cute.
Yep. And the next one is KBS Song Festival. It opens with a quote about taking off your mask and coming into the magic shop. So by now we're sort of into that era. And then the doors open and it's like the BTS symbol. And then they raise the doors and there's another BTS symbol in lights. And then the doors open again. And then the boys are standing in front of a third BTS symbol. They wear lovely white outfits, like shirts and jumpers.
Fluffy.
Hobie and Junie have big fluffy ones. I don't like Jin's weird safety pin tie.
Don't need it.
No.
And really sadly, Jimin doesn't have pink hair.
No.
But you've got blonde Yoongi.
Yeah.
I think I've got more time for blonde Yoongi than you have. I'm always like, is it blonde Yoongi? And you're like, no.
I don't care. Any Yoongi is good Yoongi. Yeah.
Blonde Yoongi is
I didn't really
only second to mint Yoongi.
Thoughts
so far, Natasha?
The Countdown one, love the tight pants.
The
KBS Song Festival one, not the best. I'm not really a fan of the like big baggy shirt and then put like a cardigan jumper or whatever.
It's a really nice rock remix of the song. And then they don't dance until the second pre-chorus, which is really nice because it really gives the song a bit more time to be without the dance. But then there's this weird dance break at the end, and then Yoongi does a really weird lip bite that just doesn't go with Spring Day at all.
Yeah, you're right. It really doesn't go.
No.
Strange.
Yeah. And then there's the Uterus stage, which is Melon Music Awards.
This is the one where I thought they were all wearing the same shirt.
Yeah, fine. Jimin and Tae don't have any t-shirts underneath their shirts, which I guess is the only difference. So when they lift their arms, that's nice.
And, Jimin's getting to live his best life.
Exactly.
Shirt or jacket.
Yeah.
I like that they have the aquarium scenes. But then, RM doesn't like the aquarium.
True, yeah.
Maybe it's before he changed his mind about the aquarium. Not a real aquarium.
No, it's just scenes of an aquarium.
Scenes of an aquarium.
I guess it promotes aquariums.
He wasn't thinking that through, was he?
No. For anyone that doesn't know, he said, I don't know if it was recently, that he doesn't like aquariums because the fish are trapped. Yeah. A lovely angel boy. Any thoughts on that one, Tash?
I like the ripped jeans because they're not just like a rip, like it's the whole shin.
That's true. I've also made a note of that, actually. We're all about the skin today. There isn't that much skin in this era, but when it's there, we find it. Next one, I wanted to include a pandemic one. They did it a lot in the pandemic, so they did it at Bang Bang Con, Tiny Desk, loads of the like talk shows. I guess because of the sort of emotional impact of Map of the Soul one, I went with Map of the Soul one.
It's the one where all armies on video behind, isn't it?
Yeah, that was the first.
And they come and like wave at the screens.
Yeah.
There's that one person who dresses as a carrot when we watched it, and then RM's like to JK, like, look at that carrot. And the carrot's just going mental in her room during COVID. Hilarious. Should we do Yet to Come at the end? Should we do Jin's dance and Jimin's choreo?
When they had won the Music Bank, they were like, Jin, you do your dance. And I think in the Bangtan Bomb, they all copy him and he does his little dance. And then they do, what is it, like whip and native thing?
Oh, yeah, it is, yeah.
Some more brilliant choreo from Jin. You know, on the back of Spinebreaker.
It's completely original.
He should be lead choreo. Mm-hmm. And then there's one, I linked to the little tiny clip, it's only like 30 seconds. In the choreo, there's a bit where Jimin sort of traverses across the stage and then pops up and normally Tae's behind him. And he changes the choreo a little and he pops up right in Tae's face. So he like moves his steps a little bit forward and then they both have this little big smile and it's really beautiful and vivid.
Yeah.
And then the last one?
The last one I included, it's just a fan cam from the Busan concert.
It takes a while to get started because they're in the train for ages.
Imagine them on the train in the same setup as they were in the MV because that's what's happening. I only included that just to remind ourselves that we had the absolute privilege of seeing Spring Day live and that one day BTS will return in 2025, hopefully.
I've got the hoodie, the Yet to Come hoodie. I own that.
I think only problem with the performance were the fact that they did like the beginning bit in the train. We were so far away, we didn't really get to see it. Even when they came out, you're just like, oh, you little speck. So
yeah, but that was a problem for the whole concert, not just for Spring Day.
Yeah, no, it wasn't just Spring Day. Like, actually, for all of the songs, we were front row. Yeah, and then for Spring Day,
they moved us right to the back. Yes, you thirsty bitches. Spring Day is not for you.
52,000 people got to see it out of 100 million.
That's true.
We were 3 of those.
Yeah,
I think it might be my favourite performance of it, just because it's so sentimental, and meaningful to us.
And it is a nice one. Like, I like all the sentimental nods, and it seemed like very apropos for them to perform it in that moment.
Overall, Spring Day,
brilliant song, masterpiece, and well done to all involved.
When we get to the awards.
Yeah, it will come up in the awards. Yes.
No spoilers.
0 spoilers. Not today. I'm so funny.
Should we move on?
We shall. Not today. No, that was terrible. No, not today.
All the underdogs in the world start a podcast. Today we record.
Yeah. Not today.
Not today. We are not being lame today.
All right. So
I took Not Today.
Yeah.
So it was written. Not Today was written by P Dog, Hitman Bang, RM, Supreme Boy, Jude. And it was produced by P Dog.
That old dog.
That old dog, what a brilliant producer he is. Woof, woof.
P Dog. Yes. Okay. You know when we said about not being lame.
P Dog, woof, woof.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
How have we not made that joke before?
I know, yeah. Right, and the non-lameness starts now.
Yeah. Not Today is one of the 2 lead singles on the album You Never Walk Alone. The lyrics of Not Today encourage listeners to keep fighting and to not give up. It's reminiscent of BTS's earlier songs such as No More Dream, NO and Bepsi, which encourages young people and students to stand up for themselves and to not blindly accept and follow everything They are told.
Exactly.
Ooh, do you think it connects to the disaster? Oh, no.
I think it probably is
You
sort
can
of
be angry. This is where the angry
generally
rap goes.
asking you to question authorities, and probably at this point in time they probably had quite a fraught relationship with their authorities in Korea, so maybe it has a link to that.
So yeah, Not Today starts with the banging intro from RM. All the underdogs in the world, a day may come when we lose, but it's not today. Today we fight, which is a Lord of the Rings reference.
Yes.
It's a speech from Aragorn in the final battle.
Yep.
The Aragorn speech goes, an hour of wolves and shattered shields when the age of men comes crashing down, but it's not this day. Today we fight. By all that you hold dear and good on this earth, I bid you stand, men of the West. I thought it was good and nerdy.
Yeah, it is
I
nerdy.
like when Aram's a little bit nerdy because it makes him a bit more accessible.
I've written down that it goes, well, maybe it's just a different part of the speech, but it said on what I read that it goes, a day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day. This day we fight. It's in The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, if anyone wants to check it out. I've not seen any Lord of the Rings, so I will
I've seen them all,
let
actually.
you know now.
I once did a movie marathon at the cinema where we watched all three back to back. It's like 10 hours. It's a good epic, a bit like Marvel. I think you'd like it. It's a bit slow, though.
Watching the first one. I watched like an hour and I was like, nothing's happened. So
yeah, you have to get through the first one.
Yeah.
Anyway, then we to Yoongi's verse. No, not today. Flowers wither eventually, but no, not today. Today is not that day. Not yet a day to die. Too good a day to die. No, not today. No, not today. The withering flowers is about, don't die, don't give in to the hatred. Then we're back to our, we are extra, but still part of this world. Extra plus ordinary, there's nothing at all. We won't ever die today. Light shines through the darkness. It wants a new world, and it wants you. Oh, baby, yes, I want it.
Yep. And then we get into the really pumped up bit.
Pumped, yeah. Then we get proper hyped.
Yes.
JK, Hobie, Jimin and V.
Yeah.
If you can't fly, then run. Today we will survive. If you can't run, then walk. Today we will survive. If you can't walk, then crawl. Even if you have to crawl, gear up, aim your gun, ready, fire.
Yeah,
which, that bit was not written by any of the boys, right? That was written by Mang PD.
Yep. But JK sings it, though, and he does a really good job, I think.
So, if we can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl.
Yep.
Is a reworking of Martin Luther King Jr. speech.
Yep.
Delivered to college students during the civil rights movement. Again, pushing a similar message, motivating them to refrain from becoming pessimistic and giving up, and instead encourage them to keep moving forward in their fight. His speech is actually pulled from the Bible. His actual speech is, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. So yeah, I think that's nice.
Yeah, it's really nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
really good.
A song about social justice, I guess, at the end of the day. And
though I just normally listen to that when I'm lifting weights.
Really?
Yeah, like I don't listen to it on the treadmill. On the treadmill, I'll listen to...
I just listen to it when it comes out.
Pepsi. I always listen to it when I'm lifting weights, when I'm about to do it, and I'm like, I'm gonna smash these weights.
Yeah.
Not today. I'm not getting beaten by these weights today, and then I lift them up and I'm like, oh, these are a bit heavy.
It is a good gym song.
And then there's the pre-chorus, which is Hobie and JK. Not today, not today. Hey, Crotits, everyone hands up. Hey, friends, everyone hands up. Hey, if you believe me, hands up. Gun, ready, fire. Yeah. And we know the Crotit reference is in Bepsi. I was going to say we know the Crotit reference from Bepsi when we did Bepsi, but we've not done Bepsi.
No, I've written we might get through all the Bepsi references before we actually do Bepsi.
We get to Bepsi. Clearly we're fans of Bepsi. We've done a lot of work. We're just waiting for it to be spun in. Maybe today is the day.
Or not today. Never miss an opportunity.
Never. So in Korea, a Crotit refers to a person who tries so hard to fit in that they become something that they aren't.
Yeah, it links to an idiom about a Crotit trying to walk like a stork.
Walk like a stork, yeah. Also, though, fake love references.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more about, like, the idiom is a Crotit will break its legs trying to walk like a stork. So I think the way that they've used it before, at least, is the idiom is meant to say that you should stick within your social class. So they're saying like those lower down in social classes, as in you crow-tits, get your hands up, like you join the fight.
Yeah, so about that, you're back into the classist, the disparities within society,
and if it's within
the social norm, you have to stay in your class. You can't
try and move up.
But BTS is saying you can.
Exactly.
Then we go on to have we done the chorus? Yeah. Don't die, don't ask, scream, not today, don't kneel, don't cry, raise your hands. Not today. Not today.
Hey, no, not today. No, not today. Yeah.
It slaps a lot more than the lyrics do it justice, to be honest. The lyrics are like pretty repetitive.
And then we get to Arms.
You know the song.
Yeah.
So Arms is too hot, success is doubling. Too hot, tumbling in the charts. Too high, we're on a trampoline. Too high, someone stop us.
Ooh,
yeah.
Flex verse.
Yeah, what a classic.
Yeah. Tumbling in the charts is quite cool. Yeah. Because this is when, this is when they're trying to
get big.
They're taking off.
This is from the same guy who wrote the lyric about Snowpiercer. Then Hobie's got
range, okay.
Then Hobie's got his verse. We couldn't fail because we believed in each other. Well, that's really sweet. That's about the boys being together.
Yeah, I wrote that Hobie makes RM's flex verse sweet by doing the whole like, we were together because then we couldn't fail, which links to the theme of the album.
Yeah. Hobie's always bringing it back.
Exactly.
Always.
Did they do that? What you say, yay? Not today, yay?
Say yay. Not today, yay?
We will never die today, yay?
And then there's the I believe in you by my side, together we won't die. That's BTS and ARMY together. I believe in the world together. I believe in Bangtan.
Cry, cry, cry.
Cry, cry, cry. And then you're going to go with Aim Your Gun, Ready, Fire again.
Charge and Basta. I lived in that.
And then it's just the bridge, which is throw it up, forget about the fears in your eyes, break it up, break the glass ceiling that cages you, smash that.
Yes.
Turn it up, burn it up, until the day of victory, fight. Don't kneel, don't collapse.
It's not today. Yeah.
And then we're back on another slapping chorus, followed by another slapping chorus.
Exactly. This is my only reference to the music video and the lyrics, but in the music video, when they say about the glass ceiling, they are dancing on the mirror platform, so that's sort of kind of like they're already above the glass ceiling, if that makes sense.
Smart boys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what do you think of the lyrics, Mash?
I don't know what this glass ceiling is, so could you explain?
Okay.
Angel, you're so young. So the glass ceiling is a term often used for the fact that, I'm going to make it up, 90%, 95%, 99% of executives, CEOs, CPOs are men. And there's an imaginary glass ceiling that women have to break through to join the C-suite. So to get the highest paid jobs and to sit on those executive type of director type levels, women have to fight extra hard to smash this. So you can see all the men doing it and you can see it up there, but you have to smash through this ceiling just to get a seat at the table.
It sort of insinuates that there's a level that you can rise to as a woman, and then it stops.
And then
you have to smash through the glass ceiling to get through it. And I remember being in like high school and one of my teachers being like, yeah, and then you have the glass ceiling and that's a real thing. Like that's going to happen to you, all you girls in the class. It has to do with how much time you spend parenting and how that's disparate between men and women. And that allows men to focus more on work and progress more easily, but obviously also to their traditional role as breadwinners and all that sort of stuff.
And then the group think. So people don't like dissenting voices.
Yeah.
And often when you get lots of people together who are of a similar background, similar gender, similar views, they become like an echo chamber for each other. Whereas when you put in a more diverse voice, whether that be a female voice, an LGBTQ voice, a person of colour voice, they will often be perceived to have a dissenting view. So they're perceived to be separate to the group and therefore causing like friction and like, oh, it's so unnecessary that they're always bringing up about why we're doing tax evasion. And a lot of the big scandals, the Exxon scandal. Exxon
was the oil spill.
Enron.
Enron.
The big Enron scandal, a lot of that came down to groupthink and
Oh, that was huge.
Lots of men backing each other, and there was a couple of dissenting voices, more diverse voices that were like, this is not. And they kept just firing them. So it's about the challenges that you'll face in your career should you wish to be super wealthy and successful.
Yeah, and also I think another reason why it's there is because people like to hire people who are like them. That is why white men tend to hire white men. It's not like a conscious thing, supposedly, but it's because I think that you would agree with me, and I think that you would embody my values.
I can mentor you, and I can support you, and I feel like
that's why they sort of argue for now the CVs with no names on and stuff like that, because you can tell from a name.
There was loads of stuff on it, wasn't there? That the CVs with a female name via male name, the male ones got brought forward to interview. Again, I don't know the stat, but it was more than 50% more often than the one with a female name on, even though all of the content was exactly the same.
Yeah, that's what that is.
And I think in this instance, it's about social class, right?
Yes.
It's about striving for more, even if you feel like there's a ceiling. It's not necessarily as a reference to women in the C-suite. But I think that's where the initial reference comes from.
Anyway.
DMV?
Yeah, I guess we can say what we think about the song first.
Oh, yeah, what do you think of the song?
I don't really like it, to be honest. Yeah. The lyrics obviously are alright, and they've got a good meaning and mean something to someone, but to me personally, it's one of them songs that, like, it's not in my playlist. If it comes on at like a club night, then I'm gonna dance to it because I've not heard it in years because I don't listen to it.
Okay.
I'm more shocked than when you gave Jack in the Box a 2.5. Like, how can you not love Not Today? It's an absolute fucking slapper.
Yeah.
Like, it slaps at the gym. It makes me feel like a bad bitch. It makes me feel like I can take on the world.
It's great.
It makes me happy. It makes me vibey.
Mm-hmm. It's so
no
galvanizing.
spoilers, but it's been a highlight in all of these, like, quite sad, low melody vocals. And then at least Not Today's there. I even tell my Alexa, and there's very few songs I tell Alexa to put on.
See, I'd see it out in the gym, and I'd never skip it. I have all the BTS songs on my playlist, and I just put that on shuffle. But when it comes up, I'm always like, oh yeah, Not Today. Great. Especially even in the morning. I mostly listen to my BTS playlist in the morning. So yeah, often as I walk into the office, and I'm like, no, not today.
I'm always sticking it to the man.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not angry enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't like it. Fine.
I love the sad songs. I'm a sad gal.
Yeah.
What's
a
big one that you like?
Song,
you like Mama, that's not the same.
You really liked So What?
Yeah, So What? It's in the same vein. It's better than So What.
Better than So
better
What.
Than So What.
By a mile.
No. So What, like, as like a, like, you can feel like you jump into it. This one is just like, ding, 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 ding. I'm just like, oh. No.
It goes nothing like that, but anyway.
It does. It's just the beginning bit.
Maybe it's too rap heavy.
Yeah.
You know, she had rap line.
Yes. It's certainly inspiring and galvanizing, I've also put. And I imagine if we were ever to go to war on behalf of the Republic of Borahae with Kim Nam-joon as our esteemed president, this would be our sort of fight song, a rallying cry. Yes.
This is how we get them.
Exactly.
I don't know who we're getting. Those
hater country.
Those multi-stunning bitches.
Yes. Yeah, them mainly.
The other countries, the mean ones.
Multi-standing bitches as well. I think that's fine. That's a bit of an in-joke, guys. We had someone accuse us of being multi-stance once, so it was not pretty. So, yeah, and the last thing I wrote was that RM said that he wrote the lyrics so that BTS would not stay silent on social issues and injustice and continue to raise problems, read, listen, and discuss with experts and be conscious of social injustices.
He wrote all the rap parts for Not Today.
Yeah, he did.
He thought about No More Dream when he was writing it. And then he reminisced about his curly hair. He was like, It made me think about back when I had curly hair.
Yep. Okay. MV,
fastest K-pop video to surpass 10 million. Absolutely smashing it. So it opens up with this big scenery, big mountains and cliffs, and that's meant to be reminiscent of Lord of the Rings, like they're on a big quest.
Yep.
Yeah. It opens with JK running. And he's doing all of this looking petrified.
Yeah.
Running and looking back.
Face acting.
Yeah, face acting.
Face acting his little head off.
Are the other boys behind him? Or is that later?
I think he's being chased.
He's being chased by the hoods.
Yeah, I think
people
so.
in the black hoods.
I think it's kind of just a close-up. And then Arm's walking through the car park.
Yeah, and then they start doing the choreo, and then they get...
Well, first we have to talk about Aram's walk through the car park, because he's
just walking through the car park.
He looks so awkward doing it, bless him. It looks like he's just swaggering, but not swaggering. Like,
I think he's doing a good job swaggering.
He's trying to swagger. Like, he's like, right, must swagger now. Okay.
He looks swaggery to me.
Okay.
And then they do the dance in the car park, and then all of the hoods take them all in.
Yeah.
And then Hobie breaks free, and all the boys come running out from behind the hoods in a break in the wall.
Yeah.
And I remember describing that to a friend and being like, yeah, they're about to like break free. They're like, pow! And then when they did it, it's more like,
yeah.
like it's like, in my head, it's like, pow!
It is.
Then when we watched it back,
think,
it's quite slow.
It is slow, yeah.
It's quite slow. And they make a hole.
They
and
do,
then they just walk through.
I think in some of the performances he breaks more than he does in the MV.
I'd overhyped it. I was like, and then they're going to all break out.
And there's more slow-mo running after that.
Yeah, and then you start to see them getting hit by the bullets.
Yep.
Everyone gets shot.
Except
JK's
JK.
at the end. Did JK get shot at the end?
I put except JK, because he you can see him standing up while everyone else is lying down, and then he looks back.
Yeah, and then you've got that amazing dance sequence
on the mirrored platform,
platform where all of the shoes are like,
like, they do the like tap,
amazing
tap kind of routine
with all of the
stomping. Yeah,
it's just lots of energy. They're getting ready to fight the fight. Then they all get shot except JK, which is sad.
Exactly,
it's sad, and they all go down really dramatically. Like,
it's great to watch. I don't know if you've seen the behind the scenes. I've not linked it, but in the behind the scenes, these like clips of them just running and then just like sitting down. Especially Aram and Sugar. But yeah, they just tired. Like run, and then like, okay, now fall, as if you've been hit by a bullet, and they're like, okay, I'm just gonna sit down.
That's not it.
No. No, it's cute though.
So yeah, that's the MV. It's not full of references.
No.
But it's good.
Or I read that there's a scene on the platform right towards the end. They're like being shot at. And then the dancers sort of switch in front of BTS and like take the bullets on their behalf.
To protect them.
Yeah.
And that's army.
Yeah, so I guess there's like a theory that the dancers at the start, where they're getting in their way and stuff,
are the haters, but then they're turned into army. As we know, that's what happens to every hater. And then at the end, they sort of run in front of BTS to take the bullets, but then at the very, very end, BTS run in front of the dancers again to then so you're doing this back and forth.
Yeah.
Who protects who?
Exactly.
Very sweet.
Yes.
Yeah, they look great.
They do. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thoughts on the MV?
So I might ruin it for you, but the dance to me looks like flamingos.
Okay.
I can show you, obviously, people listening can't see, but this bit where they do this looks like...
She's just shown us BTS dancing with all their dancers and then a group of flamingos walking together.
We'll link the flamingos.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to.
There's a few gifs that I can put into, but that's just where my mind goes when I watch it.
Did you come up with this yourself, or did you see it online?
I can't remember. I feel like I do it for a lot of K-pop dancers. I always think, like, they look like flamingos.
It's a brand new take, from a younger mind.
Sometimes you really shock me with your opinions. And then sometimes they're just so left field. Like, I wouldn't even... But you are right. You might have ruined the Not Today MV for me. Yeah, that's probably happened.
Okay.
It's a really brilliant dance break, the flamenco one.
Nice, okay.
So, yeah, they look great.
They do.
RM and V have both got the headbands.
Outfits are elite. Yeah. Grape Mon and Fluffy highlights JK, and Bubblegum Jimin are still with us because obviously it was just a week after.
And Jimin's hair in the MV is like at peak stage. It's not too pink, it's like a pastel-y pink. Seeing Jimin with that pink hair, I just want to dye all my hair pink. I want to be that iridescent.
Okay.
She wants to be a flamingo.
I do.
Yeah. They would look even more like flamingos if they all had pink hair.
Yeah, I'm not going to dye my whole hair pink, but I might.
I think when they pair it with the like embroidered bomber on his leather trousers, it's great.
Yeah, it's so iridescent.
Yeah, it's sexy. Whereas in Spring Day, it's just cute and fluffy. Yeah. I like all the bomber jackets except Tae's, which I think is too big. It's too big and boxy and doesn't suit him.
Performances?
Yes.
One in the big gym basketball hall that I made the mistake of watching on my phone.
That's the dance practice.
Oh, the dance practice.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of watching it on my phone and I just couldn't see anything because it's so zoomed out.
It's super back, but I guess that's
for
because you
ages.
have to fit in all the dancers. The dance is really good. The dance is amazing. And the jumps and the stomps and the shotgun moves and reactions. I've laughed at this because it's apparent if you watch it. I don't know if you'll remember, but one of the top comments on the video was, let's all wear the same jumper and not tell Yoongi because he really stands out in his yellow jumper. They're all wearing white and he's got this like bright yellow jumper on.
Oh, no, is it one of the boys wearing red?
No, they're all wearing like a white jumper underneath and some of them have like shirts and stuff
on
over.
top.
There's a really weird bit where the dancers make this tank and then BTS run in slow-mo towards the tank.
I hate that.
Yeah. It's so dumb.
That's them getting shot by the tank.
You don't have the bullets in the MV to show them getting shot, so obviously you have to create a tank with the dancers.
Standard.
JK doing the slow roly-poly.
How do you even do a slow roly-poly?
He's got some core strength.
He's got a lot of strength, that boy.
Yeah. There's loads of backup dancers, and I remember on Suchwita, Sugar's talk show, the guy from 17, Hoshi, said that BTS were one of the first groups to use a lot of backing dancers in their performances. And I was thinking when I watched this, I think there were a lot of dancers in some of the Fire performances, but I think this would have been one of the earlier ones with loads of dancers in the MV, maybe.
It's reminiscent, right? Well, on's reminiscent of Not Today.
Exactly.
There's a couple of performances that we linked, but we didn't link loads.
No.
The KBS Music Bank one, where they forced Jimin into a jacket and a shirt.
Yes.
And therefore he's trying to whip it off his shoulders left, right and centre.
Yeah,
he looks beautiful, again, with the pink hair.
Yeah. I love the bombers in this one, though. I think I called it the incredible bomber jacket performance. But yeah, Arm's got this Korea-themed one. It's got loads of like little like patches on it. And Jimin's got a striped one. Yoongi's got like he's got a netting top and a fire hat.
Toby's got a really nice green one, but also a red hat.
Yeah, no, the green one's nice as well. And then Tae's still in the headband, and I think we need to. I can't remember if I talked about Tae in the headband.
You did in
Mic Drop. I didn't choose it as my best look though, which I was surprised. But yeah, Tae in the headband is.
That's because you were back being a Tae bias, so you were trying to be.
No, I chose mindful. A different Tae look.
Oh,
yeah, I did. But yeah, Tae in the headband, always elite. Yeah, great outfits, great performance, explosive. Liked it. Did you like it, Natasha?
Yeah. Looking at it, looks a little bit dark, I want to say. Compared to like music video, where obviously you've got like the pink sky in background, and these are just like spotlights. So it's, yeah.
I think the music video is very saturated, as in like they've turned the brightness right up so you can see all the color contrast and stuff like that. Yeah, and the pinks.
Pink in the hair.
Yeah. But yeah, next one. Love Yourself, Speak Yourself.
Just after they've done Dionysus.
Which is crazy.
Absolute slapper. How are you doing Dionysus followed by Not Today? It makes me so jealous that I could have seen it at Wembley, but I wasn't.
You did see it.
But I didn't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate it. And I just love it. But yeah, then they smash out the choreo. They're all wearing suits.
Yeah, grey suits covered in diamantes. I've put. Tae has a red flower. The dancers look a bit like doctors. So
I love it.
Yeah, me too. I like it a lot. Do you like this one better?
No.
Do you like any of them?
No.
Fine. Cut her out.
Let's move on then. Thanks so much for listening. Come back for You Never Walk Alone Part 2 next time. And I've been Christine.
I've been Leanne.
And I've been Natasha. And we have been
Generation BTS.